You're listening to The Kelly Slusher Show with your host, Kelly Slusher. Well, hello. Well, hello, my new friends and my old friends and everyone who has joined me for episode 23. Ooh, so excited. Episode 23. And if you have not heard my the last episode, my brother was on there and I interviewed him. We had a conversation and it was really funny and you should check it out. Definitely worth listening to because he's hilarious and he just has really good stories that he tells me about. His experiences are just funny. So I just recently flew in to see my family in Mesa, and I flew back, of course, back and forth, round trip. And before that, I was planning on driving. I like to do road trips, preferably over flying. I actually don't mind flying. It's getting to the airplane that I don't like. But because I thought I was going to drive, so I was like, oh, it's okay. I was on YouTube and I saw a suggested video, which was how Lynyrd Skynyrd band, they died in a plane crash. So I watched some of it because I was kind of curious about it and I was like, okay, this is horrible. So then because I watched that, YouTube started suggesting all these plane crashes and I was like, whoa. What happened to flight 103, whatever that was. And then what? They got ripped out of the chairs. So I watched that. Something horrible, rare, probably never will happen again. And then some other ones I had watched thinking, oh, I'm not going to fly for, who knows when I'll even fly. That's fine. So I was like, when I realized I was going to fly to Mesa, I was like, dang it. Why did I watch those? Yeah, I shouldn't have watched those. Yeah. Should have watched those plane crash videos. But let me tell you, the worst, I flew on the busiest day of the year. And when I booked my ticket, I didn't realize it was last minute. And the way my schedule worked out, that was the day that I wanted to fly out. And then I had 5 days there and flew back. And, okay, it wasn't so bad, but it's because I booked it at a really early time of the day. But it's on the way back, it was really hectic. The worst part about flying is you walk into the airport and it's anxiety because you're not just kind of anxious. You could be kind of whatever. I know I'm going to get on my flight. This could be a straight flight through. I don't have to change planes or I don't know where I'm going. That will give me, I'm sure, plenty of people anxiety because you don't want to miss your flight, stuff like that. But I was pretty chill about knowing where I was going and it wasn't going to be a big deal. But right when you get to the airport, it's nervous energy and it's not you, it's everybody, It's just it's just this huge building of just stress, people just got to fly. So no matter what, it's, and the worst is when you get to the TSA because it's okay, this is going to suck. I'm pretty sure this is going to suck. Yep. Just get in a line. Oh, I can't wait to just line up to just be treated like cattle. And, and they always change the rules. Sometimes, when I was flying on Thanksgiving, they're okay, everyone, no, keep all your shoes on, put everything in the bins. Don't take anything out. Okay, cool. But then I had metal on my boots. So they had to I set off the thing. So then I had to put my boots. I had to take my shoes off anyway. So, okay, and then on my way back, it was okay, iPads have their own container, shoes off, and they get every single time they have a specific, that I've noticed, there's always something different that they want you to do. And not everyone in the lines get it, I don't know where they're at. It's the people when you're sitting at the stoplight and it's green, it's that's green. That means you put your foot on the gas pedal and you move forward. That's right. So those people that hesitate, I don't know, maybe they're just looking at their phones, but like the hesitation. So you just like, if you got compacted all these people, different levels of intelligence and awareness. And I can't imagine somebody with 5 kids going through that. I would be like, you would just have to not care. Because you know what, like all these requirements that you have to do, and oh my gosh. And so once you get through the TSA and you get your stuff, you're like, for me at least, I'm like, okay. Because it's the worst. I think it's the worst part, now it's like, okay. So I like to fly Southwest. That's kind of like, I don't know, it's my comfort airplane. It's always good anyway, but you can sit anywhere. There's no first class, you pay a little bit extra and you can do like the earlier boarding, which I like to do. So you can pick your seat. Anyway, so if you sit up, you're 1 through the A1 through 15 or 1 through 30, you might actually be able to get in the front of the plane. A little bit too close for comfort. I don't like to be like right there, but I think I was on like row 5 the first time, enough where I could like lean over, and I imagined like I could see inside of the cockpit where the pilot was flying, and so that I had this imagination how funny it would be. I was cracking myself up if like he's like, okay, everybody. Everyone, he turns around and he's just like, okay, everyone, you're just in your plane. You go, hey, everyone, just sit back, relax, and let's do this. And he like starts the plane like, here, I'll get a sample like this. And then he kind of like gives like the 2-finger nod, like, and then he closes the door and then we're off. That'd be really cool. That'd make me feel really cozy and comfortable. And if you're enjoying the Kelly Slusher Show, please give me a 5-star rating and review. Follow me on Instagram and subscribe to me on YouTube, both under the Kelly Slusher Show. Anyway, I'm glad to be back. I don't want to do that again for a while. I'm going to do road trips instead. Oh, and I also wanted to mention the previous episode 21 I had talked about. I was talking smack. And a lot of times I'm kidding. I'm generally just joking, exaggerating. If I think something's silly, it's always, what is it, tongue in cheek, or whatever. It's never... I'm probably kidding a lot, which I was, about the luggage with the 4 wheels. So I was like, mad talking smack about like people with the luggage with 4 wheels. You only need 2 wheels. But the thing is, I noticed about 70% of people at the airport this time had the 4 wheels. And I was like, oh man, I dislike 70% of the population with the 4 wheels. But I still don't get it. Like, I'm still going to keep my 2 wheels. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, but I thought that was funny. I was like, oh, well, a lot of people do the 4-wheel luggage thing. And I just, I just totally just made fun of it. But it was kind of funny. And the other thing that happened, I love this. Okay, I love this comedian, Brian Regan. He's just funny. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's been around for a long time. He's a clean comedian, so he's kind of goofy. It's kind of like a dad comedian probably. I don't know. I guess, keeping it clean. I guess there's a lot of those guys. Anyway, but he's funny, and he does this U2 thing where like he'll say the wrong things, and he made this, and it's one of his jokes. So my uncle, I was at my aunt and uncle's house, and I gave my uncle a hug, and he's like, have a good trip, and I was like, you too. I was like, oh, I mean, you too. The next time you're taking a trip, make sure you have a good trip. It was just funny, and I was just like really kind of happy that I accidentally did a Brian Regan joke, and then I corrected myself how Brian Regan would correct himself, and no one got my joke. They just thought I was a fool. But I actually had this other thought. What if, okay, totally changing the subject now, and it's just silly. Me and my sister made a charcuterie board when I was at her house, and we like decked it out and cut all the meats and the cheeses and put all the stuff that we could on there. And then we sat by the pool, because it's Arizona, you can sit by the pool, but not in a bathing suit because it's still kind of chilly. And for some reason, I've made jokes about charcuterie boards before, because it's funny because it's so trendy now. You gotta have your charcuterie board. Oh, you can have it anyway. You can have a dessert charcuterie board. You can, I went to this party and I brought a charcuterie board. Well, the thing is, I had to take it into my car, so I put my charcuterie board in the side seat, and I was really worried about my charcuterie board. I was just driving down the street, and then I had to make a quick stop, and luckily the charcuterie board didn't move at all, and all of the meats and cheeses were still arranged on theirs perfectly. And then I went to a party, and I already did this joke, actually. I think I'm repeating myself. And then I went to a party and I grabbed the charcuterie board out of the back seat. And as I was walking in to the party with my charcuterie board, I knocked the door and he noticed that I was holding my charcuterie board. And then I walked inside and I placed my charcuterie board with all the other charcuterie boards. Yeah, I already made that joke because it's just so funny. People like to say it or something. Okay, so the funny thing is that back in the 70s, because you guys, if you've been listening to me for any length of time, you know that I like to look at vintage cookbooks and get a real kick in the pants. Anyway, so charcuterie is not, it's not new. It just means meat and cheese, but it's not a new thing. It's just the name became a thing to say, to call it that. And so my mom is like, well, isn't that just a smorgasbord? It is. And so I looked it up. I have a recipe. It's for a smorgasbord. It's the same thing. She's like, why don't you just take meats and why don't you take some cheese and some salami and call it a smorgasbord? And I was like, I'd love to walk into some, restaurant, some winery and just be like, do you guys, I love it. Oh, I see you've got some appetizers. Oh, you got a cheese board. Oh, I see. Oh, do you guys have a smorgasbord? They'd be like, what are you talking about? Lots of meats and cheeses and things that you put on there. Oh, you mean the charcuterie? No, we call it smorgasbord. Hey, my phone's like going bling bling. Stop it. I usually silence my phone. Silence it. I put a silencer on my phone, and then I stick it in another silencing bag. And then that bag, I stick that bag in another bag. And then in that bag, I stick that bag in another bag. And then I put it in another room. And then I take that door and I close it. And then I put another door upon that door and another door. So you never hear my phone. I'm definitely secure about it. Anyway, okay, so I thought it'd be really funny if there was a charcuterie board drive-through, because that would make no sense. Yeah, can I get the dessert charcuterie board, and then can I get just your regular charcuterie board? Would you like to supersize that? And then it's like so big. It's like so big that you have to put it on you have to have a flatbed truck to take it home, because it's the extra large charcuterie board. It's like, really big. What are you, Kelly? Are you like 10? Was your humor like, are you 10 years old? Must be, kind of. I don't know. I definitely can hang out with kids and go into like a fun little imagination world. Ooh, imagination world. So I was thinking about gingerbread, and I mentioned this on my previous episode of the one before last about like, why do they call it Gingerbread Man and all that stuff? So, tis the season to talk about Christmas songs. Tis the season to talk about Christmassy stuff, because you know what? It's all about what's happening right now in the world. Currently. It's current. I come at you current. It's like live. That's what's going on. It's Christmas time. So, I looked it up, and this is a fairy tale. It comes from a fairy tale. Maybe y'all know about this, but maybe you forgot about it. But, it's like, what is gingerbread? Why do they call it gingerbread when it's a cookie? So basically, it's the story of a woman, a couple. The couple was lonely. They lived in a village with no children of their own. They were forced to live out their days and nights in solitude. It was one of those nights that an idea occurred to the woman. She would make a boy out of a gingerbread. If she couldn't have a son, this was the next best thing. As she pulled her creation out of the oven, however, the boy, or man, which is in quotes, as it is often called, jumped from the pan and fled the cabin. The woman and her husband chased after the humanoid dessert to no avail. As he ran, the gingerbread man happily sang a song. Run, run, and run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man. First, the man passed a cow. Ooh, look delicious, said the cow. Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man, the man sang as he easily outran the cow. Next, he came upon an owl. Who are you? I'm hungry, the owl said. Again, the gingerbread man sang his song. Finally, he met a fox. The cookie was prepared to mock the cunning creature like he had his two slow friends. I don't understand that. But to the ginger man's surprise, the fox wasn't interested. I don't know what the cow and the owl are talking about, the fox said. You don't look like you taste good at all. The man stood in front of the animal in stunned silence. Before he could formulate a reply, though, the fox grabbed him up in one swift motion. So, it goes on to say, and this is the creepy part. So basically, then it says here the story is like the original story also features a slightly more grisly ending. As the fox ate the gingerbread man limb by limb, he cried, I'm a quarter gone, I'm half gone, I'm 3/4 gone, I'm all gone. So that's creepy. So that's where the gingerbread man comes from. So are we all the fox? I mean, what is that? You know, is that? Oh, I'm baking this little gingerbread. I'm not going to eat you. You don't even look like you could taste good. You don't look like you taste good at all. And then I looked even more into it, and basically, the gingerbread itself it's pretty amazing, actually. So, have you ever been hanging out with somebody, and maybe you don't know them very well, they're maybe a friend of a friend, or you're just all hanging out with them, and, oh, what did you major in? And they're like, English or literature, or what is it, the other one? Oh, and I met someone who is a speech therapist lady. And anytime I meet those kind of people, I'm like, you must think that I talk real's weird when I was talking, because I knows that there's things I say that aren't correct. So I'm thinking they hear me now as like this hillbilly, because I know, and I was not going to let this stop me from doing a podcast that I don't always say the correct grammar. And I think a lot of people, you know, there's plenty of people like that, but I just don't. And you know what? I do it better. I just do. I do it better. Anyway, what I want to say is, what about paper jam? Like a paper jam, but it's like paper jam. Can you please pass the jam? The paper jam? Oh yes, I made this the other day. I almost want to like make that product just because it would be like, you know, one of those things you'd see in the store, like, oh, look how cute, it's paper jam, but it's actually strawberry jam. Get it? Paper jam. It's not Jimmy Jam. So I was in the store the other day, and it was a store that has a huge bulk section, which I would say would be the ultimate party for someone who liked to smoke a lot of weed and you have the munchies. You go to that store. It's probably, I'm sure people do. It's a kind of popular store. So anyway, this is the thing. I was at the bulk section trying to decide what I was going to get. And I looked down, and these two little boys, they're about 5 or 6, they both had a gummy bear in their hands, and one of them like opened the lid and stuck the gummy bear back in the bin, and then the little other brother runs over and does that to his, and I said, don't put those back. I was like talking to the kids. I was like, you can't put those back. Gross. And they just like looked at me like, okay, you're not our mom. But I'm like, no, it's not about mothering you. It's just like, if anyone I saw that would do that, I would have to say, don't put that back in there. You take it out of the bin. It stays out of the bin. So then it got me thinking, I'm not going to do bulk. People are, okay, so this is the other thing. So on the thing, it says, please ask for assistance if you want a sample, you know, but I always see people grazing, you know, like, I can have just one. I don't personally do that. I don't think it's right. Maybe it's my upbringing of having a strict parent. But at the same time, I think it's you're basically stealing. Just saying. Anyway, why is it not different? Do you reach, you know what I mean? So anyway, can you imagine like, oh, I want to sample that pecan shoe, and you'd like chase down like a store member. Excuse me. Oh, I see you're going that way, but I'd like to sample a pecan shoe in the bulk section. I know it's across the way, but can you help me with this? Is that really what they think you're going to do? Pardon me, ma'am. I know you got these 10 customers here, but I would like to try the peanut stretchers. I've never heard of them. And it says, please ask for assistance. And I'm thinking about getting a small bag of it if I do. What would they do? Okay, ma'am. So they'd come over, they'd like hold your hand out, and then they'd put it in my hand, and you'd say, thanks. And they'll be like, you're the only person that's ever followed the real instructions, and what's wrong with you? No. It's true story. I'm not even exaggerating any of that. Okay, one more thing. This is something, I was at the stoplight. I look over, I see this woman, she's walking down the street, she's got a dog. She's having a full conversation with somebody who's not there. But you can just say, oh yeah, you're talking like this, and oh, here you're talking, and just, hand motions, as if someone's walking next to her. And I've seen this before, and I think, there really could be someone walking next to her that we don't see, because like ghosts and things like that, like paranormal. You know what I mean? Like it literally, like, what are they seeing then? What are they seeing? They're talking to someone. They see it. We just don't. So when I lived in cities and stuff, like bigger cities, and I ride buses and stuff, and let's say I would have a conversation with somebody on the bus, I used to get this paranoid feeling like, what if they're not really sitting there and I'm talking to myself and I'm one of those people? They're like, oh, crazy lady talking to nobody. No, you know what I mean? So sometimes I would just be like, is this, I'd get a little like paranoid, like, what if it's a ghost? And I'm like talking to them and they're like, crazy lady on the bus. They don't know they're crazy because they think they're actually talking to somebody, but that somebody's invisible. It's just something to think about. So I was helping some friends who live in this hoity-toity neighborhood. It's a HOA, and it's very specific. Only certain people live there, just because it's kind of a smaller neighborhood. But anyway, I don't want to say where it is. But anyway, I'm helping them clean out their garage. They need help. They don't know what they're doing. They need assistance. I'm really good at organizing and stuff. So anyway, I'm there and the garage is open and people keep walking by. And one lady, who's the neighbor's daughter, keeps, she's popped her head in quite a few times. And she's just really out of touch. And, I don't know what world she's living in, but apparently there are these people that don't really understand what the real world is like. Like real world meaning like a lot of people who really do struggle, like to make ends meet. It's hard for a lot of people. There are some people that are fine, but there's a large group of people. There's a lot of people who have struggled. And so she's like, she says something about, because there was like their paper section and all the paper products and stuff, and she's like, oh, you mean, she goes, who wouldn't? Oh, it looks like you're getting low on toilet paper. You better make that Costco run. I mean, during the pandemic, who didn't have like their whole 250 pack from Costco? Who didn't have their Costco toilet paper? I don't even know why at all it was a problem. Who didn't have that? I can tell you who. That guy living in his van. The tents. Have you seen the tents? The tents in the cities? Do you think those people just have infinite supply at Costco? I just can't imagine the people living on the streets. The people barely surviving. People living in their cars. Hello. I don't know, like the single mom who has 5 kids, who lives paycheck to paycheck. People who have fixed incomes. Elderly people who can only afford a little bit each month. I can go on and on. College students, people that just don't have a ton of money to go invest in a Costco card or even go to Costco. You know, it's a privilege. So that's who, lady. That's who. And on another side note, this other lady came up and she's like, whoa, I just had an ashwagandha trip. I just went on an ashwagandha trip last night. I took half a pill and I was just hallucinating and seeing all these ghosts, and I was just laying in bed like, woohoo. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Ashwagandha, if you know what it is, if you don't know what it is, it's an herb and it's very it's amazing. It's an amazing thing, but I have never heard of anyone having a psychedelic freak out from ashwagandha. Oh my gosh. And then I chimed in. She didn't care about my opinion, but I said, well, you're probably detoxing, because I think that's probably what that was. I don't think that there's any psychedelic qualities to ashwagandha. I think I'm going to have more stories from that area because it's just, I come from such a different perspective, and then to hear these people come in with their like silly stories, they're like, you're out of touch, you're out of touch, you're out of touch. It's freaking perfect. It's the Silent Podcast. Hi, this is Kelly Slusher. Welcome to my Silent Podcast. And it begins now. And it's just quiet. And you can like hear me like move around a little bit. Like you hear my chair. You might hear some. You know, it's like you're here, you're hanging out with me, and it goes for half an hour. And then towards, and then I pop on after 30 minutes. You've been listening to the Silent Podcast, the only podcast that brings you absolute silence with the occasional sound. Anyway, it's time for me to end this podcast.